Thanks for tuning into my show. Today's tutorial is for a crochet bear hood. We're going to be doing an adult size, but details for the child size will be available in the written pattern, and I'll leave that link below. The yarn I'm using for this project is Karen Cakes. The color is Vanilla Bean. I'll also leave a link to where you can buy this yarn in the description below, but you can use any other size 4 or 5 yarn that you would like. This is technically a size 4, but it's honestly more of a size 5 in my opinion. It's pretty bulky. You're going to need about 400 yards of it. You're also going to need 2 of these faux fur pom-poms with elastic band to attach. I got these on Amazon. And a size 6mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and a pair of scissors. Alright, let's get started. Okay, find the end of the yarn and leave a long tail, like 1 to 2 feet long. And then make a slip knot. The reason we leave a long tail is because we're going to use this to sew a section further in the pattern. But for now, we're going to start with 71 chain. 1, 2, 3. Once you got your 71 chain, we're going to work back in the other direction now. We're going to be using half double crochet stitches starting in the second chain from our hook. So this one on our hook doesn't count. That's 1. And starting in this one, we're going to do half double crochet, and just a quick refresh, that's a yarn over. Insert through the chain, pull the yarn through, yarn over again, pull through all 3. So just repeat that, doing 1 half double crochet stitch in each chain. So that'll be 70 stitches for row 1. Doesn't matter too much if you're picking up 1 or 2 loops here. I like to pick up 2 just because it's consistent. When you get to the end of the row, we're actually going to do 2 half double crochets into the last chain. And that will make 71 stitches for row 1. And now chain 1 and turn your work. Row 2 is going to be the same thing. We're just going to do half double crochets all the way down the row. And we're going to do 2 in the last stitch. So row 2 you're going to have 72 stitches by the end. So we're just doing a 1 stitch increase at the end of each row. And we're going to repeat this for 20 rows. This is what we have at row 20. Your work should be symmetrical. That increase we were doing has created an angle on this edge, and you should be up to 90 stitches by row 20. For the next 14 rows, we're going to continue with half double crochet, but we're no longer going to be increasing at the end. So do 14 rows of 90 half double crochet, and I'll meet you at that point. This is what our hood looks like after 34 rows in total. You should have a straight edge here where we stopped increasing. And you can go ahead and cut your yarn, leave a 3-foot tail this time, and pull it through the last loop there to secure it. Now our hood actually goes this direction, and we're going to use this tail end to sew up the back of our hood, and we're going to use this tail end to sew a seam in the front here. We're actually going to fold over the front of the hood about 5 rows, both sides. And then we're going to use this tail to sew up a seam here. So we're just folding it over. We're going to sew it up like that. So grab your yarn needle and we'll start sewing up those sides. Okay, grab the end of your yarn and just thread it through the yarn needle. And you can just tie a little knot here so that it stays. And now we're folding this over, and with that last this end here, we're just gonna go in through the work. And then back through. And just keep going back and forth. And you can line up the work, make sure it's flush with a row here, and just go back and forth sewing. All the way across the whole row. Okay, so this is what the edge looks like. Just gives it a little extra structure on the edge there. And that is the outside. That's the inside. And now we're gonna go ahead and sew the back. And I'm actually gonna sew it from the inside. So flip it the other direction. That way our seam will be on the inside of the hood. And we're not gonna fold over the back side. We're just gonna line it up. Doop. Okay, we're just going to sew this normal. We're not going to fold it over. We're just going to sew the edge as it is. And just do the same thing back and forth. And you'll just cut and tie off your yarn at the end for both sides. Okay, now that we've sewn together the main section of our hood, we're gonna make the ears. So, leave yourself like a foot long tail and begin with another slip knot. And here you can either do a magic circle or chain 4 and do a slip stitch into the first stitch to make a loop. And chain 1. Find the center of your loop or your magic circle, and we're going to do 10 half double crochets right into the center. Alright, once you've done 10 half double crochets, do a slip stitch into the first stitch to end the round. Chain 1. And round 2, we're just going to do 2 half double crochets in each stitch all the way around to make 20 stitches for round 2. So go ahead and work into that first stitch right where your chain's coming out of. Your chain does not count as a stitch, so we'll do 2 stitches in that, and just go ahead and go all the way around doing 2 stitches in each stitch. Okay, and we end round 2 again with a slip stitch into the first stitch, and then chain 1. In rows 3 through 5, we're just going to do 20 half double crochets. So we're not increasing, we're just doing 1 stitch in each stitch for 3 rows. And you're going to end each row the same way with a slip stitch into the first stitch. I'll show you what I got after the next 3 rows. Okay, so this is what we have after 5 rows. And we can go ahead and cut our yarn, and again, leave another foot long tail. And pull that tail through the loop to secure it. Okay, now what we're doing is we're folding it in half. Make sure your tail is on the end. See, there's our ear. And we're going to sew this part together, so go ahead and grab your yarn needle again. Okay, thread the end. Oops. Make a little knot so it stays. And just like we were sewing before, just go back and forth sewing the two ends of the ear together. Okay, and now I'm going to show you a little trick. If you pull that end, it's going to pull our ear together and give it a little more of a concave shape, like a real ear. You know, it should stay pretty good there. And we're going to use this tail to sew on to our hood. So grab your hood. We could theoretically sew the ears on wherever, depending on how our hood fits, but I'll show you where I think it looks good for the adult size. Here it works folded in half. Here's the bottom, and here is the top. So from the seam, we're going to count up 8 rows. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to count in 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we're pretty much going 8 by 8, and that's where the corner of my ear is going to be. So we're going to put it right here. And using the same tail end that our needle is still attached to, we're just going to go back through the ear and then down through the work. And open it up so you know that you're only going through the one layer. You don't want to go through both. And we're just going to go back and forth, sewing on the ear. These stitches are kind of bunched up. It's a little bit hard to see where you're going, but as long as you're going through both this layer and the ear at the bottom, you'll be fine. I'm going to go back down through the corner of the ear and leave the tail on the inside of the work. And go ahead and give it a little tug if it needs to, or depending on how concave you want your ear to be. I think that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, and now cut this off your needle, and now we're going to thread it onto this tail that we started the ear with. So thread your needle onto that tail end, and this is a fun little trick. So first of all, pull this so that the top of your ear is closed, and we're going to just weave back and forth a couple of times, and that's going to help keep the shape of the ear, and it's also going to help it stand up, because we're going to go through this one more time, and then we're going to go down through the work. And you want to pull this too. Just if you pull too tight, it's gonna like pull the ear too much. We don't want it scrunched up, so just pull it just enough, and that's gonna keep it standing up when you're wearing the hood. And now on the inside, you can go ahead and cut that again, and we can just tie our two ends together. Make sure again that your ear is not, you don't want to pull them too tight, just tight enough. Do a double knot or a triple knot, and then I'm actually going to go back and weave in these ends and then tie them again. I'm not going to go into detail with that, but I'm just going to weave in those ends, go back and forth, and then tie it again so it will stay. And there's our ear, and go ahead and sew on the ear for the other side. And then we'll sew on our pom-pom to give it a little fur and texture. This part's optional, of course. I just think it looks really cute to have like a little fur on an animal hood. And find the elastic You could probably use one of those snap-on ones too. I just feel like the ones with the elastic on them are a little bit stronger. And we're just gonna put this pretty much just behind the ear. Maybe like just 2 rows up. You don't want it right on the ear because then it's gonna like push it forward. So you just want to go back like a row or 2, and we'll sew it on in the center, like maybe right about here. So we're just gonna do a really easy sew on. Just cut yourself like a 6-inch piece of yarn and thread that yarn through the elastic on your pom-pom. And then bring it all the way, go from the inside, and just bring that yarn through right where we want to sew it on, and holding on to this other end, go into the stitch right next to that. Can you see what I'm doing? Okay. We're just going into the stitch right next to that, and then pulling that yarn through as well. Okay, and then from the inside, here we are. I'm just going to go ahead and double knot this. And here we go. And knot it again. And I'm actually going to go back up through one more time. And through this elastic one more time, just so it's secure. And back down again. Alright, and give it another double knot. You could go back and weave these ends in again, but it's already like at a quadruple knot, so I think that's fine. Trim. And voila! There's our furry little ear. So cute. Now go ahead and sew on the other one, and I'll show you the final part. Okay, so the last part on this is just to sew on the braids at the bottom corners. So using the rest of the yarn you have, which probably isn't much at this point, it's about all I have left on mine. You can just, however long you want the braids to be, I'm going to do 18-inch, so just cut 18-inch sections for pretty much the rest of your yarn. Leave yourself like a foot maybe, just because we have one final thing to tie on at the end. But go ahead and use pretty much all this yarn and cut 18-inch or whatever length you want. Till we have a bunch of long strands of yarn all the same length. Alright, once you have all your strands, you can cut one end. So I'm going to leave this end intact, and we're going to cut just one end. Alright, so I have about 27 strands that I got with the last bit of that yarn cake. And I'm going to split that in half. I want my braids to be the same, so I'm going to put whites and browns. I'm going to split them up equally into 2 piles. Alright, so I pretty much have 1 and 2 piles of 13. I guess this one would have 14. Alright, 2 piles of 13. And put one of those piles aside. Alright, and now we're going to attach this to the corner, kind of like you would with fringe. I'm going to split this up, then this section, into another 3 sections. Or whatever, you might have ended up with a different amount of strands, but pretty much we split the strands in half because we have 2 sides, and then we split them into 3 sections for each side. And I'm just going to go through the corner of the work and pick up one of those groups of stitches. Oh my God, I'm getting confused. Okay, here's one group. So go ahead and pull one of those Oops. There we go. And then just pull the ends through that lip there and pull it tight. So just do that 3 times on the corner. Go just right next to it now. Pull all the ends up, and then the ends through the loop. Oops, I lost one. Anyway, you get the idea. So just do that on both sides. I gotta redo that one. Okay, so this is what we have. Just the 3 sections on each corner of the hood. And now I'm just gonna braid these 3 sections all the way down. Sometimes it helps to have like a weight, so that there's a little bit of tension when you're braiding. This is not a tutorial that teaches you how to braid. I just am assuming you guys know how to braid. Anyway, it's the simple. We're just gonna braid all the way down to the end. And when you get to the end of the braid, we're just gonna tie a piece around this now. So hopefully you saved yourself just a teeny bit of yarn. And we're just going to tie this around. Make sure it's tight and that it looks good. Double knot. You can go, and I like to flip it to the other side and then do another double knot. Can't go wrong with quad knots. Alright, and then you can trim your ends. Better than that. And there is one end. Now I'll go ahead and do the other, and I'll show you what my final finished piece looks like. Yay! And here's the finished hood. I hope you guys liked my tutorial. Let me know what you guys think, and if you have any questions in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe and stay up to date on my latest projects.